Hey there, want to know 6 proven ways to increase your e-commerce sales? Well, listen in to today's guest, Chris Dayley.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. We are talking all about money. In fact, this month, we have been talking all about how you can increase sales. We started off with Steve Olsher and getting really clear on why you're doing this and how you can harness that to leverage different parts of your business and create more money. And then, if you haven't already listened to Thomas Duran's episode on how to use video to sell more products, that one has been loved by all. It has had a lot of downloads. That was last week. So I really do recommend that if you have an e-commerce store, you head over and listen to it because it's going to help you make more money. And today I have Chris Dayley on. He is the VP of Testing and Site Optimization at Disruptive Advertising. And he's going to share with you 6 proven ways. We are getting all full of stats and we are getting really into the somewhat techie side of things to show you how you can boost your performance inside of your e-commerce store. Now, over in the Retail Academy, we've also been focusing on how to increase sales. In fact, we have dug deep and pulled out 3 proven ways that we can increase sales either online or in store. And I'm super proud of the guys and the girls inside of the Academy on what they have achieved. I mean, Matt, who literally just joined the Academy 2 weeks ago, Matt, who has an e-commerce store called Matt's Hot Sauce, he gets the gold star for overachieving because in those 2 weeks, he took home the November copywriting book that he got from the Retail Academy and he rewrote all of his product descriptions. And then, being the savvy entrepreneur that he was, even though he hasn't received the product yet, and even though his website isn't quite finished, he took some advice from me and he opened up pre-sales. As a result, he already has income coming into his business and he doesn't even have the products yet. They're due to arrive in a couple of weeks, but people are getting excited. The fact that they can buy them, they can buy this stuff before anybody else gets it in Australia, they can reserve it and know that they're going to get it before all of their friends. That has caused quite a buzz. So gold star to Matt from mattshotshop.com.au for taking action and getting that cash flowing in. If you'd love some great tips on how you can increase your cash flow, I have gone and created a brand new free download for you. It is my cash flow creator. And you can grab it over at SelenaKnight.com/moneymaker. That's all one word, SelenaKnight.com/moneymaker. Okay, now today, Chris Dayley from Disruptive Advertising is going to give you some tips on how you can optimize your e-commerce site to get more sales. So let's jump in and hear all about them. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I've just finished up doing a bunch of live events, and I have to say that my assistant Elizabeth does a little bit of a sticky beak at the websites of people before they come to the workshop, just purely for our own interests. And I have to say that not necessarily the people at the workshop, but I look at a lot of websites every single day, and a lot of them need a lot of work. And there's a lot of a lots in there because there is a lot of a lot. So I asked Chris Dayley to come onto the show and help you guys understand what it takes to make a high converting website. Now, Chris is a digital marketing entrepreneur and his passion is for helping you to create a higher converting website. And that includes e-commerce sales. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
I have a feeling before we even get started that this might be one of the highest downloaded ones. It's funny that you don't always know, but I think in our top 3 is how to take better pictures. And you just think, hello, this is a podcast. How can you get that stuff across? But pretty much I would say, I don't know, do you know how many retailers actually have websites? Do you know the stat between like bricks and mortar? I heard one recently and it was something like only 40% of bricks and mortar stores actually have an e-commerce website.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so let's put it at below 50%, which means you have a lot of competition out there if you have a bricks and mortar store. And if you have e-commerce, there's such a low barrier to entry. I mean, anyone can get a free WordPress website, throw in WooCommerce, get some products off AliExpress, and lo and behold, you can even drop ship. You don't even have to buy product. So I see a lot of websites, and I'm sure you see way more than I do. So let's start at the beginning. Well, let's let you tell everybody a little bit about how you ended up here, and then we'll start at the beginning, which is the homepage.
Yes. So, well, I'll just my quick background. So I've been in the digital marketing world for a little over 10 years now. I got my start doing search engine optimization, SEO, which is all about driving traffic to your website, right? You want to get your website ranked on Google so that people can find you. And so I spent a few years doing search engine optimization, and I ended up in-house at a company where we had tripled our organic traffic to our website in like a 6-month time frame. Like just completely blew it up, right? Which is, yes, you would think that is a great thing. And so I was sitting down feeling pretty awesome about myself, telling the CEO that we tripled traffic. And then, of course, his next obvious business owner question is, well, how much money did that drive?
That would have been mine too.
And of course, my, idiot mind back in the day was, well, I don't know. I don't even care. We got more traffic. And so as I start answering the obvious elephant in the room, come to find out we did not triple our sales. In fact, we didn't double our sales. We tripled our traffic and barely increased our conversions. And so then, of course, the obvious marketing question is, well, why? How come those people didn't convert? What was happening?
Way to be a downer, though, on a fantastic day.
Right. Yeah, I know. And so, by necessity, I discovered the industry that I'm in now, which is conversion rate optimization. And I discovered that you can run an A/B split test and take a page on your website, make a change, and then split traffic between two different versions of your page to find out which one works better. So I thought, what the heck? Let's give it a shot. I've got nothing to lose. And so we ran our first test, which, by the way, did not look great. I was, I'm not a designer. I'm still not a designer. I had taken, I think, a free landing page template that I found online and tested it against our one of the pages that one of our very professional designers had created, and it worked better.
Do you know what? Ugly landing, I have to say, this is why you have to test, guys. And even I am a bit like, I hate the words A/B testing, but of course I do it all the time. I just don't like calling it that. But my highest converting pages, the ones we just did for the event, literally just have, do you want to get more customers, and a video and the time and the date, and press a button. Whereas opposed to great big copywriting ones and all that kind of stuff, sometimes the uglier things, or the simpler is probably the better word. The simpler, less cluttered, straight to the point pages can make such a big difference.
Well, and especially, you talked about the homepage. And so, talking about the homepage, for example, homepages are, I would argue, are the pages that have the most executive time spent discussing, the most creative, fluff type of conversations happen specifically around the homepage, because it's people's first impression of your business. When you're an e-commerce business, your homepage is a place where you can feature all of your new products, right? Most businesses use it as kind of like their billboard or their commercial, so that they can, whatever's in season or whatever is, the latest and greatest. And most businesses have no idea what people actually want on your homepage.
This is so very, very true. It's kind of like the lobby of a hotel, right? You walk in and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you click through and it's like, oh, this is where I am. And just this week, I've been talking with my private clients about bounce rates. And one e-commerce store, which is actually a really pretty e-commerce store, the homepage is anyway, has a bounce rate of about 70%,
Mm,
which is a little bit scary if you're in e-commerce, because most people
yes.
come to your website and they're looking for a specific thing. So we talked about
Yes.
some reasons about why that might be happening, but I would love it if you could share some tips on what should be on a homepage, or how to work out, what you should be featuring there so that it reduces that bounce rate and actually draws the customer in, because this is what you are good at.
Yes, I love that, and I love that you bring that up. And let me take a step back real quick. So so I do a workshop every year at Social Media Marketing World. I met Mike Stelzner, who runs Social Media Examiner, a couple of years ago, and he actually heard me on a podcast, and he said, "Hey, I was really interested about what you're talking about. I want to see if you can help me on my website, Social Media Examiner, and then subsequently on the Social Media Marketing World website." And what I speak about there is a fairly, I call it a simple process, but it's usually eye-opening for most people that attend, because what I talk about is 6 areas that you should look at on your website to make sure you know whether or not you're converting the maximum number of people. Because like I said, most people have no idea what your audience actually wants to see, right?
Yes.
And so from that conference, so I went through my 6 points that I'll mention here in just a second. I went through my 6 points, had somebody come up afterwards and said, "Hey, we just spent like $300,000 on a new site design, and it's an e-commerce site, and we launched it, and it didn't convert any better. Like it converted the same as our previous site." So we're all scratching our heads trying to figure out what happened. So I went in and started asking them some questions. I said, "So why did you design the new site the way that you did?" And they said, "Well," and this was one of the best answers that I've ever heard. They said, "Well, we've done a lot of research into our audience. A lot of our audience are females. They're coming from Instagram. They're coming and they're purchasing on their mobile devices. So we've taken our site and we've designed it to look like Instagram. And so you come to the home page and you can scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and it keeps loading more and more products. And it has kind of like an app-like feel to it. And we have dozens of products that, there was probably 40 or 50 or 60 different products listed on their homepage."
Wow.
Sounds like a really good idea, right? It sounds like a very data-driven idea, because they understood where their audience was coming from. And this is the dangerous part. They had drawn a bunch of conclusions, or they made a bunch of assumptions that because people were coming from Instagram, they wanted a website that looked like Instagram.
And let's be honest, if you walked into a marketing meeting and said that, everyone would be like, "Awesome idea."
Oh yeah, you'd get a promotion the next day.
Yes.
And so again, it sounds like a great idea, but one of my jobs, and this is one thing that I love about my job, is to challenge everybody's assumptions. And so one of the first questions I asked is, do people actually want to see that many products on the site, right? So you've got, or on the homepage, you've got whatever, they'll call it 50 products that are listed on the homepage. Is that how many you should actually have? So we ran a very simple test. I call it an existence test, where we just test what should be on this page. And so we created, I think, 8 different versions of their homepage. So we had, their existing version with 50 products. We had another version with 40, another version with 30, 20. We removed different sections, different categories of products off the homepage. And
Can we guess? Can we guess what the good number was?
yes. Yeah. Guess how much we increased conversion rates by removing stuff.
Well, I would love to first of all guess what the optimum number of products was.
Yes. Okay. I'd love to hear that.
I'm going to go with 8.
Okay.
And then your conversion rate, if you got this right, I would say 60%.
Okay.
Increase.
So that's a great guess. And so first we tested 8 different versions of the homepage. 6 of them increased conversion rates. So, and all 6 of those were removing products. We had increased conversion rates by about 30 to 40%. And what this meant for the client, by the end of 1 week, sales had increased by about $30,000. Just from removing things from the site. So what that immediately did for us is it immediately debunked that assumption that they had made, which is people want a lot of products, because on Instagram you can scroll and scroll and scroll. People didn't want that, right? It was too much. There were too many products. And so, if you think about, if I'm going to a website and I want to buy a product, even if I see the product I want, if there's a bunch of other products on the site, I might just scroll around just to see if there's something else that I might want more.
Distraction.
Right. And yeah, you've got too many distractions. And so that's actually one of the 6 categories that I talk about in my workshop is identifying potential distractions on your website, especially for e-commerce sites, is a major area of opportunity. And so that's a question that I ask people often is, do you know what is distracting people on your site? Or do you know what could be distracting?
Sliders are distracting people. No sliders, guys.
So that's an interesting thing. So as I work with, I've worked with hundreds of e-commerce companies at this point, and I will say there are no 2 e-commerce sites that are the same. I have some like general rules of thumb that are broken every single day. For a long time, I thought the same way that you did. Sliders are distracting. Sliders move. It's hard to read them. It's hard to see what's on there. Like, why don't you just have one static offer? And for every test I run that shows that sliders don't work, I also have another test that shows that they do. And so it's a really fascinating thing. Yeah, it's fascinating to look at and go, do I know what my audience wants? How am I going to know that if I haven't tested it, right? You've got to run these tests to figure these things out.
So what was the optimum number of products?
So ultimately, I think we ended up with about 16 products. So you're pretty close with 8.
I thought between 8 and 12, but I had to pick a number.
Yeah, well, and so again, it really depends, like the industry, the types of products you're selling, that will determine in large part how many products you should have. Now, this particular client sold all kinds of different products. They had apparel, and they had, they sold parts for your diesel trucks, and they sold, they sold hats and whiskey bottles. I mean, it's like all kinds of stuff. And so they had a very diverse group of people coming to their home page. We're looking for a bunch of different types of things. So, and the other thing that was interesting was we tested showing categories of products or showing specific products, and for this client, showing categories of products worked better. And that actually also went counter to what was best practice in my mind, because I've seen that usually showing specific products works best. So again, it was a really interesting situation and a really interesting scenario that just highlighted, it tied a bow on this whole principle of asking yourself, do I know for sure with data what my audience wants to see on my site?
I guess because I'm so focused on people increasing their revenue and their conversions, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you basically paid for their new website in 10 weeks.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
They recouped their initial return on investment in 10 weeks. And
with one test.
With one test. Not to imagine, I imagine you did a whole bunch of other ones. Before we get into logistics, you said you've got 6 things. And so far I've written down distraction. Because I reckon we could talk about this for hours, but we won't. Maybe we'll just get you back as I'm writing notes, we'll get you back to talk about the other stuff. Or maybe I'll come and see you at Social Media Marketing World, because I'm heading off to traffic and conversion. So they're right next to each other.
Yeah, it's right after that. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So 6 things, one of them being distraction. What else can we look at to increase our conversions on our website?
Yeah. So the other areas that I suggest you look at, and the way that I suggest, if you are looking at your own website, instead of looking at what I think people want, I usually recommend that businesses just identify, what do I have now on my site, right? So with distractions, you can identify what are the potential distractions on my site. I don't know what's distracting people and what's helping people. I just need to ask a question. What could be distracting, right? So the other areas that I typically look at is I look at what is and what should be my call to action on my page. On each page of the site, what is the call to action, right? And if I don't know what it is.
E-commerce stores don't even have a call to action, do they?
Yes.
They just expect you to click, you're going to click on a thing. But if you put the shop now, shop the collection, grab this, something, you're actually telling people to do something. We expect that when someone comes to a website that they intuitively know what to do. But I see this every single day that I'm clicking around, like you and I both visit a lot of websites, and I'm clicking around trying to work out where to find things.
Yes. Well, and here's something that's interesting. So psychologically, we as human beings, we like to feel smart. And the harder it is to figure out what I'm supposed to do, the dumber I feel, right? So So the simpler you can make it for somebody, the more you can just spell it out for somebody, the more they start getting those feel goods in their brain of, wow, I know what to do. I am so smart. Like, I feel so empowered. And so that's kind of the principle behind why that works is you're empowering your visitors by making it very easy to know exactly what you're supposed to do. So call to action is important. Do I know what I'm supposed to do? And is it easy to identify on the page, right? The next thing is your value propositions. So value propositions are something that crack me up, because usually when I talk to business owners and I say, what are your value propositions? You can't get them to shut up for 30 minutes, right? Because they're talking about every value proposition that they possibly have. So, I sell products online and they're made in the United States and they're, animal cruelty free and a 30-day money back guarantee. And I've got 10% lower prices than everybody else. And whatever, I've got all these value propositions. So really the question that I ask is, do you know what value propositions your audience cares about?
Yeah.
You know which ones they want to see on your website? Because 9 times out of 10, you're showing too many value propositions. You're drowning your audience in all of this information that you want to show about your products, when really maybe they only care about the 30-day money back guarantee, or maybe the only thing they care about is the price. And if that's the case, then everything else that you have on the page is just a distraction, right?
It comes back to distraction.
Yes.
Underline that one again.
And so value propositions, again, it's critical to ask which ones do they want to see and where do they want to see these value propositions, right? Because a lot of times we as entrepreneurs, as marketers, we want to tell our story to somebody everywhere. So it's like we've got our story written on the home page, and then on the category page, we have a big banner at the top that talks about our story and our mission. And maybe that is a unique selling point that you have, or maybe people don't care.
It's funny because I think a lot of people they have blindness to all of that as well. So one of my clients did do a money back guarantee, and she just started putting it at the bottom of every product description. And with our 30-day love it or return it, guarantee, you'll know that this is perfect for you. And she was just putting it into the text, and all of a sudden people were saying, oh my God, I never knew you had a guarantee. It is literally it was plastered on the front page.
Yeah, so it's important that you show them at the right place, right? Like the right place, the right time. Something interesting along that lines as well. So we were doing some Black Friday testing, right, for some of our e-commerce clients. That's the biggest e-commerce event of the whole year.
Yep.
And so it's critical that you figure out what to do during that time. So we were trying to figure out how should we highlight some of these offers? What are the things that people really care about? And Amazon does a great job of this. And so what we tested was, does it make a difference to people when they're going to get their product, right? I mean, I say Amazon does a great job of this because usually on every page it'll say, order this today to get it by Wednesday, right? And so we tested that concept on the product page. So when they add it to their cart, do they want to know when they're going to get their product? We tested it on the cart page, and we tested it on the checkout page to figure out where do they want to see this information. And the interesting so the interesting thing was when we put it on the cart page, we ended up with way more purchases. When we put it on the product page, we got more add to carts, but the same number of purchases, right?
Wow.
So that was really interesting to go, that's just a small nuance, but if we show it on the cart page, they're already in a higher intent, like a more of a buyer mindset. And so if I show it on the cart page, that can give them the extra motivation they need to check out, versus if I show it on the product page, I'm increasing their motivation to add stuff to their cart.
So did you do it on both? Did you try it on both?
We did try it on both pages. And again, this is with a couple of specific clients that I'm thinking of where just showing it on the cart page turned out to be the ideal experience. And so again, this is, I'm not saying that is the end all be all. I'm not saying that that's what people should do. Again, Amazon has it on the product page, and Amazon runs hundreds of tests every month on their site. So that must be what works well for them. So, okay, so value propositions is critical to understand, do I know which ones they want to see, and do I know where they want to see it? The next area is content. So this is something that SEO people have very strong opinions on, right? The more content you have on the site, the better. I used to do SEO, and so I'm very aware of the need for that. But the question with content that I always ask is, similar to value propositions, how much content do they want and where do they want it, right? And I found that usually businesses tend to give too much information, too much content. However, there's always exceptions to this rule. So I mentioned I met Mike Stelzner, who runs the social media marketing world. We were testing on the conference website. So we're trying to get more people to sign up for a conference. And so we had on one of their information pages that described the conference, there was just pages and pages of content. I mean, Mike Stelzner is a content genius, and he had written all this content personally, and it was just, to me, I looked at it and I wanted to throw up because I was like, this is way too much content. Like, there's no way anybody's reading this. And so we ran a test with the question in mind: how much content do people want? So we took his original site. We had one version that had less content, one version that had more content, and one version that had the same amount of content, just organized differently, like in bullet points with like a quick navigation, that kind of stuff. And can you guess which one won?
I'm going to go short.
And that's what I thought was going to win too. And this was shocking.
The reason I say
having
that,
more content actually.
Really? Okay, because the reason I say short is because
Yes.
I would think the majority of the people who went to that website already had an idea that maybe they wanted to buy. So they already knew.
That's what I thought as well.
They had a concept of what was going on. They just needed to be pushed over the fence to press the buy button. But you're saying more content worked, but organized better.
Not only that, less content worked worse. So conversion rates went down when we removed content. So that was an eye-opening thing to me to go, this audience obviously cares. They're reading this content. And they're voracious readers. I mean, they are consuming this content. And so for this audience, more is better. But, in general, and I say that was shocking to me because in general, less is more. And that's the principle
especially
that I hear.
I would think that warm audience, less is more.
Yeah, right. If they're already aware of your offer. So I ran a similar test with John Lee Dumas. So he has a podcast and on his podcast, he drives people to this book he created. And in his book, The Freedom Journal, his audience is extremely warm. He sells it basically to them on the podcast. They go to the landing page and they buy it. And so his page was bare bones. It was like, here's the product, here's the price, buy now. Right? Very, very bare bones. And so again, I wanted to challenge that concept. Is that how much information you need? So we ran some versions where we added paragraphs of content. We added just maybe a few bullet points with value propositions. And adding content increased conversion rates by like 20%. Which again, just reinforced, even if it's a warm audience, even if you've already sold them on the product, when they come to the site, if you can just reaffirm it to them, if they can be sure that this is what you were talking about or understand how this is going to benefit their life, then they can connect that with the decision they're about to make.
So now the first thing I have to go and do is with my workshop landing pages, I need to go and do a long form one to see if a little bit more actually converts.
Yes.
But all this is so true because we all read, I interview a lot of people, we read a lot of things and they come back with this data, but it really truly can be what works for you what works for your customers. It's not even about what works for you, is it? It's about what works for your customers. Yes. I was on the website, supplement website. They do like health supplements.
Okay.
And I was on their website the other day having a look and I was actually quite interested because all they have have a beautiful picture that takes up half the page of the bottle. And then it just has 2 lines about what the product is. And then for everything else, you have to click a button for the ingredients, you have to click a button. For more information, you have to click a button. I was going to actually ask you this question. I was going to ask somebody, you just happen to be here. The information that's hidden in those sort of, click to opens, does that get indexed by Google? So that still ranks for the SEO?
It does because it's part of the page, right? And so Google's going to load all of the code that's on the page. So it will still get indexed. And for like PPC purposes, if I'm driving paid traffic there, that will typically not help my quality score. So if it's hidden on the page, it's not going to increase my quality score because they're looking at what's visible to your audience.
Right. I mean, they do a lot of testing, so I'm guessing that they've worked out their people. That's what works for them.
Right.
But you said you had was it 6 things or 7?
Yeah. So we've gone through. We talked about your call to action. Talked
Yes.
about value propositions. We
Yes.
talked about content.
And
We already
distraction.
talked about distractions. So we
Yep.
got 4 of them, right?
Yes.
The next question that I invite people to ask is, what could potentially be causing people anxiety on your website? So anxiety, if this isn't new information for you, anxiety is not something you want somebody feeling on your website. And there's a lot of things that can cause anxiety. And so you need to be aware of what points on your site they might be feeling anxiety. So they might be feeling anxiety if they have a lot of products and they have to pick from one. They might be feeling anxiety about the price of your product. Maybe it's priced too high. Maybe it's priced too low. Maybe they're feeling anxiety because you have a promo code on your add to cart page and they don't have a promo code. And so they're going, I need to search on Google and find a promo code, right? There's a lot of things, like just nuances with e-commerce sites, that can cause people to feel anxiety. And so what you need to look at as a marketer, as a business owner, is I need to know what things could cause anxiety and what should I do about it. Maybe I shouldn't do anything. Or maybe I should take that promo code thing and hide it, right, into some kind of a drop down. Or maybe I shouldn't even have a promo code. You know,
Yeah.
why do I even have that thing anyways?
Because it's in the website template. And
Yeah,
I don't know how
right,
to take it off.
exactly. And so, again, it's about questioning, what does my audience want to see? What's going to provide them with the easiest experience? You know, other things that can cause anxiety, when I get to the checkout page and I have to give my payment information, every time I'm going to feel some small tinge of anxiety. So should I say something to them at that point? How can I reassure them? You know, do I need to say that we're a safe and secure website? Or if I say that, is that actually heightening the anxiety? Because now they're like, oh, well, should I be worried, right? Or, you know, so like we've done a lot of testing on cart pages and checkout pages, because those are the pages that people tend to feel a lot of anxiety, because they're on a cart page, they're looking at their total amount and it's like, oh crap, I didn't realize that, you know, I added 5 things to my cart. Now it's going to cost $500. Like, you know, like they're looking at their overall total. And then on the checkout page, again, they're giving their payment information. So we've done a lot of testing to say, maybe we should put the value propositions there, right? You know, like the get your product by this date, or, you know, sometimes that's where we will kind of reaffirm on a cart page or a checkout page, hey, 30-day money back guarantee, free returns, you know, ships in 2 days or whatever. Like, you know, you might be featuring some sale or some deal, and you say sale ends in 5 hours or whatever. Those are some things that can help people at that critical moment in their conversion journey to say, okay, I'm going to do it. Right. Yeah. And the best websites make you like anxious to do it. You're like, yes, I want to buy this now before I lose the discount.
Stick a countdown timer in there. It works every time.
Yeah, right.
No, right. Mine is color. Like I have to review websites for an awards ceremony every year. And there is this one business, and they are awesome at what they do, but their website is bright yellow, and it works for their brand. Bright yellow, bright red, lots of bright colors. And I get a little bit anxious every time I have to go to their website, because
you got to put on sunglasses.
It's just a little bit too overwhelming for me, because and there's lots of product, but clearly it works for them.
Right.
And it suits their brand for what they do. But every time I see their name and I go, oh, yeah, I'll do that one last before I have to rank it.
Right. It's like, I know if I'm going to research like auto insurance companies, I know I'm just going to get blasted with offers and emails and phone calls as soon as I fill out a form. And so I'm on high alert when I go to those types of sites. And so again, you need to understand, like, what is the mindset of somebody that's coming to your site? They may already have a ton of anxiety just because shopping for this product is really difficult. Or maybe you have a product that is in a very competitive industry. And so they've just been reviewing 5 other versions of your product. And so again, you need to just be aware of some of these things and try to figure out, how can I address that anxiety? Or do I need to? Maybe I don't even need to address it. But again, you should definitely test that. So that's the 5th thing. And then the 6th area is, I call it responsiveness, but what I mean by that is, how customized is your mobile experience? This is an area that I would say almost across the boards, every company is missing some opportunity on. And that's because mobile is, it's still a fairly new space, even though, people have been using mobile devices now for like 10 years. It's still something that businesses haven't really figured out how to do well. And so it's a huge opportunity. What most businesses do, that's why I hate the word responsiveness, is because when I say responsive, every company is going to go, oh, my site's responsive. Like, look, you shrink it down to mobile and it shrinks down, right?
Can I throw an example in here and you can give me some feedback? So I was going through the ads of one of my private clients and we were looking at which platform people were using, which device, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things I hit was I added into the views adds to cart, and then we obviously already had purchases. And what we found was on mobile, which is where it all happened, she had 100 adds to cart and 4 purchases. And all of them were on iPhone. And the first thing I said to her was, do you have Apple Pay? And she said, no. I said, because, okay, 4% is, an okay conversion rate, but I don't know, if you've added it to cart, that number should be a lot higher. You already, I know some people do window shopping.
You're very high intent at that point.
Very high intent. And she was running all the retargeting ads and things like that. But I said that my first suggestion was, do you have Apple Pay? Because if they're on their phone, I don't know, if you've got I've broken my nail, but if you're trying to type your name and address and phone number and all that stuff on a little device, sometimes I just go, I'll wait until I get home.
Yep.
I'll just buy it on a desktop because, in fact, all I have to do is press a button and it autofills. And then I can auto press another button and it puts my credit card details in. Yep. So is that somewhere that you find, like, and I say that is responsiveness because I only found out about 18 months ago that you can customize form fields if you're good at what you're doing. So if it's, say, a credit card number, you can have the only thing that pops up on your phone is the keypad, not, you don't have to press shift and try and dump the numbers in.
Yep.
So is that somewhere that you find gets a lot of, I guess, friction is probably the word I would use, where people are adding to cart, especially on mobile, but aren't converting?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, which is, and this kind of, blends in the anxiety portion with the responsiveness portion, which is what could I do to potentially make this an easier site experience? Anytime somebody feels anxiety, there's a very high chance they're going to leave and maybe never come back. Yeah. Anytime somebody feels frustrated on your site experience, anytime they have to take additional steps, right? So what you're mentioning is, if I have to sit there and input all my information instead of having it auto-populate, that's a lot of additional work that I have to do. And so anytime there's additional work involved, you're going to lose some percentage of your people. Yeah. And so that's where being a really great marketer or being a really great business owner is asking, what do people want on my site? Right? What would make this as easy as possible, as simple as possible? What will give them the right amount of information at the right times? Like, what is it that people actually want? And how can I do a better job facilitating that? And so, yeah, I mean, you brought up a great point. There's lots of different payment options, but here's a mistake that some people make is they go, oh, you're right, I need Apple Pay. But if I have Apple Pay, then I also need to have Amazon Pay. And if I have Amazon Pay, then I also need to have, and they start throwing everything in there. And so suddenly you've got 5 different payment options and that just becomes confusing.
Yeah, right? I guess for her, it was literally, there were no other, they were all iPhone. Every single person was iPhone. So we were able to deduce that if there was one she was going to put in, let's give that one a try. And this was only last week, so we haven't had a chance to test it. But that's the other thing that I get overwhelmed with is because I have Apple Pay, is if it does it, it auto-populates everything. And I'm like, oh, no, maybe I wanted to use PayPal. So you can get to both sort of levels. Now, tell me, because we've been talking for ages and you and I swear we could spend the whole day talking about this. People are probably thinking this sounds really, really difficult. So could you maybe share with us 2 or 3 tools that you use to help with your testing that are within the reach of an independent business owner and don't cost, $7,000 a month or something ridiculous like that?
You bet. Yeah, you bet. So I have a couple of good free options, a couple of good free tools,
awesome.
Which, yes. So, I mean, if it's free, then you have no excuse not to use it, right?
No excuse not to give it a try.
At least to try it, right? So the first tool is called Hotjar. I love Hotjar. It is a heat mapping tool. And what this heat mapping tool will do is it will tell you where are people clicking on my page, right? This is particularly helpful on pages like a homepage or a category page. And why this is helpful is if I look at my category page and I've got, I'm selling shirts and I have 30 shirts listed out and I see all of the people, or the vast majority of people, are all clicking on this one shirt, that might be a ding, 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 like good thing for me to look at and go, oh, maybe I should make that shirt easier to find. Maybe I should put that one up at the top.
At the top.
Maybe I shouldn't even have all these other options. Maybe all they want is that one shirt. Or, if there's 3 shirts that get a ton of engagement, then maybe I should move those up to the top that say like most popular products, and then you can have all the rest of them listed down there below, right? So those are some things that like help me, but it helps me understand what are people clicking on and what are people not clicking on. Here's another thing that is really surprising to me that worked really well on an e-commerce site. So we put a heat map on a cart page, and we saw on the heat map that a lot of people were clicking on the product thumbnail image, right? It's like a little tiny image of the product, and a lot of people were clicking on that product image. And so then we sit there and go, why would they be clicking on the product image? They just came from the product page that has all the pictures, the nice large pictures. Like, why would they be clicking on that picture? And the only reason that I can possibly think of that you'd click on a picture is because you want to see a bigger picture, right?
Yeah, that's what I would do. You just want to reaffirm you've chosen the right thing.
Yeah, because especially when you have those little small thumbnails, sometimes it's like, is that the one that I picked? Like,
I put my hand up. I do that. I swear I click on the product about 5 times just to make sure I got the right one.
Yes. Because even though you have free returns, that doesn't mean that people want to go through the hassle of returning it. So what we did is, and on this particular client site, when you clicked on the product image, nothing happened. It was just like, it wasn't a clickable image. And so that was a signal to us, you know what, people are looking for something. So we ran a test and said, hey, when they click on that, let's have different things happen. Let's have one version where we kick them back to the product page so they can see the pictures. Let's have another one that has a little pop-up window that has all the images in it. Let's have another one that, so like just trying different versions out. And by adding something that happened, by adding a little pop-up that had all of the images and the reviews listed out, we were able to increase conversion rates by like 30%.
Wow.
And
this
so
is game changing. Like we say 30%, we toss this number around, and 30% does tend to be a really good number in e-commerce when you add something in. Like when we like one-click upsell, 33%. So the 30. But I was reading. I'm just going to cut in because this is an awesome example. I was reading a case study about Vistaprint and their upsell process, and on the first day they had a 28% take-up rate. And that one thing was responsible for turning them into a cash flow positive business.
Wow.
So we say 30%, but 30% could literally be the difference between you making money and not.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Well, and again, if you think about this, what we're talking about is we're talking about converting more of your traffic that you're already paying money to get to your site, right? Yeah. It's like, I'm already running Facebook ads. I'm already running Google ads. I'm already doing organic, like SEO. So I've already paid to get these people to my site. So I better make sure that I'm doing the best darn job I know how to convert these people, right? Yeah. So that's the first tool, Hotjar. It's a very simple tool that just allows you to analyze people's behavior on your site, right? So where are people clicking? The next tool is an actual A/B testing tool. So, what I've been talking about is testing different versions of your site. And Google actually has its own free tool that you can use. It's called Google Optimize. It's not the best tool out there, but it is free and you can use it, and it plugs right into Google Analytics. So it's frankly, it's pretty convenient.
Yeah, I didn't know that was something.
And the fact that Google actually created it says, rankings, right? Like if Google is telling me that I should test, then it's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So you can do Google Optimize, and this is how simple it is to build a test. So it walks you through a step-by-step process of how to get this tool installed on your site. You're really just adding some additional code to your Google Analytics code on your site. And if you have like a Shopify site, it's really, really simple and slick. Fairly simple process. Once you have this set up, it will ask you, what page do you want to test on? And you'll put your link in there. So you'll just paste your homepage URL in there. And then what the tool does is it will load your homepage up into this tool so you can see it. And then you can hover over different parts of your site and you like click on your banner on your homepage, and it will give you a bunch of options. Do you want to remove it? Do you want to move it somewhere else? Do you want to replace this with something else? Do you want to edit the text inside of it? It'll give you a bunch of different options. And so again, building a very basic test is pretty easy. Right now, where people usually will come and work with us is if you want to build something a little bit more complicated, then you'll usually need a designer and a developer to get involved, and that's where it can get a little outside the scope of what one person can do. But if all you want to do is for example, I talked about the homepage existence test. I want to test removing some products from my homepage. I can do that on Google Optimize. I can go in and create a new version, remove some products fairly easily, and then launch the test and see what happens. So those are a couple of free tools that, like I said, anybody can use, no barrier to just a little bit of adding some snippets of code to your site.
Oh, I love that, Google. I didn't know that one existed. And I have to say, it pains me when my clients say, I feel like my website's not converting. So then I just spend all weekend installing a new theme and redoing it. I was like, but you didn't actually know what was wrong.
Yes, exactly.
One thing.
Yep.
And heat mapping, it sounds a little bit scary, I think, but it is very important. It's like I said, it's so easy to actually do and to get an understanding of where people are clicking and what they're actually engaging with and where potentially that anxiety might be. I have one last question for you before I let you go, because we've been talking for ages, is one of the things that pains me is, and because we love Shopify to bits, is especially on Shopify sites, in the navigation menu, it'll say things like, about something or other, and then shop, and you have to actually click the shop button to start shopping. Drives me insane. I would much rather it just says shirts, jumpers, shoes, blah, blah, blah. Have you ever tested the shop versus actual categories in the navigation menu? And if so,
absolutely.
What was your outcome? Is it just me?
So it's not just you. And again, so part of the reason why testing like your menu, for example, can be so powerful is people are going to see that on every single page of the site, right? Now, if you're on a mobile device, probably all you're going to see is the little hamburger menu, right? Yeah. And then when you click that, it pops out and you get other options. But on desktop, you're going to see all of those options all the time. And so it's a site-wide element. It's going to influence people almost on every single page of your site. And so it has very high potential for impact. That's how I categorize those tests, is it's very high potential impact because it could impact everyone on the site. And you're spot on in saying what you put in the menu does affect users' behavior. So what you want to ask is, again, which options should I put in my menu, right? Like if I have sale in there or discount or whatever, is that going to screw up all my traffic? Is everybody just going to go to my sale page? And so I make less revenue because people are now just buying my cheap products, or do I sell more because all the cheapskates who are going to leave the site now have something to buy, right? And, similarly, should I have shirts, pants, hats, or should I have women's, men's, kids, like what should my categories be that I'm listing out in the menu? So yeah, I think you bring up a great point, and I've seen huge revenue impacts from changing what's in the menu. But again, there's not like a one size fits all.
You just got to test it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, just as a consumer, it's like I'm coming to an e-commerce site and I see, about us, frequently asked questions, shop. It's never the first one. Shop.
Yeah, right.
Maybe something about shipping, and then some other, and maybe sale. And I'm like, okay, but now I have to go shopping. My options are shop or sale.
Yes.
I have to keep clicking to get to the thing. So, okay.
Well, let me just say one more thing on the menu too, because there are very, very simple menus that are like, shirts, pants, shoes. And then there's sites like Nike, where you'll go to Nike, you'll hover over men's, and then you get like 50 other options that pop out for men's. And it's like men's shirts, men's shoes, men's winter, men's jackets, men's suit coats, like whatever. You've got all of these subcategories. And for some websites, that works phenomenally well, especially when you have a very loyal customer. For some sites, I actually ran a test for one of our clients recently where we tested taking one of those really complicated menus and reducing it to like the bare bones. So we went into analytics. We looked at what are the most visited pages on the site. Let's keep those ones in the menu. We'll take everything else out. And conversion rates almost doubled by reducing the complexity of the menu. So again, you want to figure out like what should be in my menu and how many, like how customized should it get?
And even as a consumer, when you said that, I was thinking the whole mega menu, when it pops up, maybe it's something similar to what Nike does, when it pops up all in one box with each thing and you can just kind of click on it, versus you hover over women's and then it says shirts, jackets, pants. And then when you hop on pants, it says, short pants, a long. And so you kind of have to follow it. I'm doing this with my fingers, guys, if you're listening on the podcast. Whereas the mega menus that are just in a box, it's like women's pants. And I just click on the one thing. I'm not kind of having to follow my mouse around to get to where, and then it disappears and you have to start all over again.
Yes, right.
All right. I think we should finish up there because, I think you and I could talk for a very long time about this. I nerd out on trying to make people more money, but it's really interesting to see that some of these things are so simple but can make such huge differences. And you've given us 2 fantastic tools that we can use straight away. So thank you for that. But I do think you've also got a cheat sheet for us, don't you?
I do. So I get asked a lot of questions like the ones that you've been asking me today. Like what tools should I use? Where should I get started? What are the easiest tests to get built? Those kinds of things. And so I created a starter guide that people can download for free. It's at disruptiveadvertising.com/guide. And you can download that for free. There's a little box that you can check if you're interested in talking with me or someone from Disruptive. If you just want the guide, just don't check the box and you can grab the guide and be on your
reducing
merry way.
Anxiety because I'm not.
Yes, right. Exactly.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I think this is going to be one of those most downloaded episodes because you just gave us good, usable stuff, implementable stuff, and ways that people who are listening can put that in place. And even just maybe next time we are making some changes on our website, thinking, actually, is that what my customers are looking for? Maybe I can just go and, contact my 5 best customers and ask them because they're the ones who are spending all the money and we want more of those people.
Right.
So if you want the free guide, head on over to Disruptive Marketing. Is that right?
Disruptive Advertising.
Disruptive Advertising. I've got marketing written all over my piece of paper. disruptiveadvertising.com/guide. Check the box if you'd like Christopher and his team to give you a call. Thank you so much for being on the show. I am going to head off and do an A/B test on my landing page for my next event in New York.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was a great conversation. We'll talk to you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selenaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.